following the earthquake at the Turkey-Syria border. We have, as you know, launched Operation Dost to provide humanitarian assistance to the affected people. To give us a sense of how this operation is unfolding and the details, we have actually a very unique panel of people here on the dais. Of course, we have with us Secretary West in the Ministry of External Affairs, Sri Sanjay Verma. We are also joined here by DG NDRF, Sri Atul Karwal, as well as by CISC from headquarter IDS, Air Marshal B.R. Krishna. Sir, may I request you to have opening remarks and give us a sense of this operation. We also have a small map here, so at a certain time we can show them a little more about our deployment once you are ready, sir.
Well, thank you, Arindam. A very good afternoon and namaskar. What I propose to do is I would set up the scenario, the build-up, the brief background to Operation Dost, the timeline involved, MEA's role in this operation, and thereafter I will let me also welcome our two colleagues, Air Marshal B.R. Krishna and DG NDRF Atul Karwalji to MEA. And this, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, is also a whole of government approach in front of you, and while we work on the ground together seamlessly over the last 2 days. Let me begin by suggesting to you of how much of a big tragedy this is. What began as early reports on Monday, 6th February, of an earthquake striking the southern part of Turkey and Syria, the reports kept escalating the magnitude of the tragedy. The area it covers on the Turkish part is almost 1.2 lakh square kilometers. It's west to east about 450 kilometers and from north to south about 290 kilometers. There are 10 provinces which have been hit, 7 of which are particularly in severe condition. The magnitude, as you know, was 7.6 and then 7.7. Impact of the earthquake was also felt in, apart from Syria, Lebanon, Greece, Israel, and Cyprus. President Erdogan, a few minutes ago, has at 8,574 and injured at 49,133. He has also shared that 6,444 buildings have been razed to the ground or have collapsed. This is the assessment a few minutes back, but as you would know, a government only confirms casualties when it is fully convinced and a lot of parameters have been met. So this figure can be much higher. In the Syrian part, as we know, 1,262 casualties have been reported and 2,285 are known to be injured. Let me now give you a sense. I may also mention that this is the biggest natural disaster to befall Turkey since 1939, when about 30,000 Turks died in a major earthquake. Now, to give you a sense of the build-up to Operation Dost, which Prime Minister, under his express instructions, has launched. It all began at about 7:38 on Monday morning. Dr. Jaishankar EM had a meeting in South Block at about 10. At 12:30, Principal Secretary took an interministerial meeting which had participation of the Cabinet Secretary, the Home Secretary, the Health Secretary, Secretary Civil Aviation, DG NDRF, DG NDMA. We have presence from HQ IDS. So this meeting from 12:30 till 1:30 discussed, mind you, at this point of time, We had not formally received a request from the Turkish side seeking our assistance, but as you will recollect, around 11:30 or so, Prime Minister himself had tweeted expressing anguish at the loss of lives and property, and expressing his condolences, and also the fact that India stood in solidarity with the people of Turkey and was ready to extend all possible assistance. The meeting by Principal Secretary concluded about 1:30, and we went over the entire scenario of what could be done. Meanwhile, simultaneously or concurrently at 1 o'clock, we received an email, official email, a request from the Turkish side asking for assistance. We had an operational meeting thereafter at 3 o'clock in South Block between the Ministry of Defense, NDMA, NDRF, to strategize and to put together our resources. That meeting concluded at 3:30. And we take some satisfaction in sharing with you that within 12 hours of that meeting, the first SAR flight left for Turkey from Delhi. And thereafter, we had 4 such flights, 2 of them carrying NDRF teams and the other 2 C-17s carrying medical teams. We also had 1 aircraft C-130 to Syria carrying medical supplies and equipment. Now, let me also briefly touch on MEA's role in this. What I also propose to do is that the operational aspect of Operation Dost, I will request my colleagues to shine the light and share more intricate technical details on the sheer enormity of this exercise, of what has gone into it, what the expectations are, and what our capabilities are. What MEA has done meanwhile is that we have deployed 2 Turkish-speaking officers from overseas who flew into Turkey and are now stationed there. With our aircrafts, we also deployed 4 MEA personnel to coordinate and help the process and the operation to coordinate between the Turkish authorities and our teams. We also set up a control room in Adana. The Consul General from Istanbul has moved along with several other officials from our mission in Ankara, and they're all stationed on the ground in the affected areas. Briefly on the Indian community in Turkey, we have 3,000 Indian nationals in Turkey. About 1,850 reside in and around Istanbul, about 250 in Ankara, and the rest are spread all over the country. Now, the question you may have uppermost in your mind is the welfare of the Indian community. What I can share with you at this point of time is that while our mission in Ankara set up a special desk, a help desk to receive and anticipate such queries, we have received calls from about 75 persons asking the embassy for more information or assistance. There are 10 individuals who are stuck in some remote parts of the affected areas, but they are safe. We have one Indian national missing who was on a business visit to Turkey and in a place called Malatya, and he has not been traced for the last 2 days. We are in touch with his family and the company in Bengaluru which employs him. I may also share with you that apart from the vastness, the geographical spread of the region affected, the weather conditions are inclement. The temperatures are sub-zero at night time. It can also rain there. Transport and communication links have been disturbed. Mobile towers have been affected, so the communication can be patchy. Plus, the focus is on rescue, and for that matter, other regular services, maybe power, etc., water, could be in shortage. But the fact is, apart from one Indian missing and 10 Indians who are safe, but are sort of in a difficult situation. We don't have any other reports at this point of time which suggests that the Indian community in that part of Turkey is under any fatal danger. I can also share with you that 3 other Indians who had sort of approached us have moved to a safer habitation and are doing all right. So this is by way of my introduction. What I can also share with you is that our response under the direction of the Honorable Prime Minister has been extremely swift. When you sort of soak in the intricacies of putting together an operation like this, which involves inter-services, different ministries, etc., putting both man, material, equipment in place, and that will emerge as my colleagues share with you the larger details of this operation. What I would like to stress here is that India has, since the tsunami crisis, built up enviable capacity in HADR, that is humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. We have in various parts of the world stretched ourselves in quick time, whether it was Operation Rahat, Operation Ganga in Sri Lanka, in the Philippines, Japan. All these were operations which were launched with increasing professionalism. And this time, the speed at which it was put together, and also this is probably the furthest we have gone in terms of our HADR involving specialized teams. So we sort of try and live up to our reputation as being first responders and also net security providers in these challenging times. I will rest my comments here for the moment and be happy to answer questions after my colleagues have made their part of their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Who would like to go first, sir? NDRF, may I request? Sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'll quickly go through the bare details, which you might be already familiar with. So we were given the go-ahead in the 12:30 meeting held under Dr. P.K. Mishra of the PMO for such deployments for the last several months, actually, because we are looking for an international certification and we had 2 teams partially ready at 2 locations, Ghaziabad 8th Battalion and Kolkata 2nd Battalion. So we picked out the best people, the equipment that we require, which is quite a long list, because when the teams move, they have to be prepared for all kinds of situations which this kind of a disaster can bring forth. And these 2 teams were then, documentation was done in a very prompt fashion by the External Affairs Ministry, passports, official passports made, issued, forms filled, teams collected, ration, tentage. The ethos is that when we go to a situation like this, NDRF presumes that the local administration is already under a lot of stress. So we presume that we should not be an additional stress on them and we should need nothing from them. So the teams go prepared for a self-sustained 15-day operation. They carry their tentage, they carry their... Only one person who points out a building to us or a set of buildings, please work here, that's all we need. So in this case, we explored the possibility that whether transportation would be available when we reach, which was not very clear still. So we carried vehicles with us, 3 vehicles with the first team, which landed, left at 3 o'clock yesterday morning, landed at 11 o'clock. Second team landed at 2000 hours in the evening. A total of 7 vehicles, 101 rescuers, including 4 canine partners with us, 4 sniffer dogs. So these teams are already in operation. So one team landed at Adana, the first one, at 11 o'clock yesterday. And the second team was diverted to Urfa because Adana was crowded. So second team landed at about 20:45 hours, correcting myself, almost 8:45. And they have both been converged at the place you see, Nurdagi, which is in Gaziantep province, one of the worst affected areas. So they are assessing the damage there, that the buildings they were entering and assessing were still suffering from aftershocks, still shaky, unstable. So they have chosen to be in the open. The weather is, as men quickly put together a very good apparel for them from whole of government approach. ITBP pitched in with their best attire for winter clothing, so they are comfortable and they started working. Then the third team's requirement was pitched, sent to us. So the third team was under preparation in Varanasi. We have more teams in queue in case we require, but third team from Varanasi was airlifted and brought to Delhi today. I just met them at Hindon Airport, and in the next few hours they would dip on the local administration is the minimal. So that is the stage as of now. Where they would deploy the third team is left to the local administration. The defense attaché of the embassy there is coordinating our liaising with the local administration, and they would decide where do they need this team to start working. So that is the NDRF response till now. As I mentioned, we have more teams in reserve because we don't know how many more would be required. The damage is extensive across a very large area, and we are prepared to render whatever help, any additional teams that India can provide to Turkey in this time of crisis.
I want to add more to what my colleagues have mentioned here is how we have built up the capacities for HADR. As you all must be knowing, we do an annual exercise of HADR to build up our capabilities. It helps us to respond to such situations very fast. And as brought out, I think within a short time we could mobilize our resources, get everything going apart from documentation, people, equipment, and be able to there from the time it was known to us within about 12 hours plus. So, which is a very quick mission is equally important. So everybody is geared up now to react to such a situation, and that reflects the kind of synergy and the whole of government approach as was being alluded to earlier. So we had the aircraft allotted, positioned in Delhi. As soon as the equipment had come here, the first flight took off early morning at 0300, around that time. It's not a question of day or night. Now we are available 24/7. So it took off early morning hours and it was there landing at around, as mentioned, around 10:30, 1100 hours India time. So like that, we have done 4 C-17 flights to Turkey, and apart, as soon as the formalities are completed, it will get airborne. So if you look at it, the type of aircraft we are using, the load we are carrying, and we have put 2 medical teams in the last 2 C-17 which have gone to Turkey, which is about 100 personnel, which has got a lot of specialist medical equipment. So that helps us to help people who are there, and we in terms of whatever they need. So and as and when there's a requirement to have more resources to be pumped in there, I think we are all standing by at short notice to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I take the questions, some of you had asked earlier what exactly is the size of the operation. So basically, we've had moved 4 flights, 4 C-17s already airborne, in fact landed, 1 C-17 ready to take off in the next few hours, 1 C-130 which is landed and equipment handed over, nearly 129 or 130 tons after the 6th flight would have been moved to Turkey, another 6 tons of equipment, 200 persons already on the ground, not specialized rescue personnel, another 50, so 250 personnel by the end of this flight, in addition to all the MEA civilian personnel that have already been mobilized. With that, let me just also, sir, as I was mentioning, within the MEA also we have developed some expertise. We have a rapid response cell which has been coordinating closely with the 2 key divisions, Central Europe Division, as well as the West Asian, North Africa division, so that we also are very geared towards this kind of operations, so we can also liaise quickly. And all the joint secretaries here are actually. I want to start with you today, and I'll come back to you guys.
Sir, this is Rishikesh Kumar from the Press Trust of India. My first question would be, is there any plan or is there any dedicated team to...
Sorry, can I ask you to repeat your first question?
First question, is there any dedicated NDRF team or
for rescue Indians? It's a very selfish question. No, we are sending assistance to, and we only rescue Indians. I think the objective is to provide humanitarian assistance, but I'll let the experts answer. I got your question.
And
next.
The second question, what are the reasons for not deploying or sending our NDRF team to Syria?
Okay. I had a hand here. Yeah, I'll come back to you. Okay, sorry. Yeah. One second. If you don't have a mic, I can't hear you.
Okay. Sir, I'm Siddhant from CNN News 18.
Okay.
Sir, I have a follow-up question to what gentleman has asked. So, in fact, even I have been reading a lot of stuff regarding American sanction on Syria. So, have we faced any kind of problem while sending material by 3 powers? So we are sending material to Damascus. My question is for the areas which fall under the control of the rebel groups. What about those areas? Thank you.
What do you mean? What about those rebels?
Like whether this material is going to reach out to those areas, or is it left to the Damascus to decide?
Pretty speculative, no? Okay. Siddhant, I'll come back. Somebody else has a question. Yeah.
Hi, sir. I'm Siddhant from Vion. My question is on Syria. Essentially, what kind of help we are looking to provide to Syria? We sent one plane. If you can give details as to how many planes are expected to go, and will we have boots on the ground like we have in Turkey?
Same question as you asked. Whether is okay, boots on the ground. There's one more hands. Yeah, please.
मधुरेंद्र, मैं न्यूज़ नेशन से। जैसे कि टीम हमारी वहाँ ऑलरेडी ग्राउंड पर है, मैं जानना चाहूँगा कि अभी डिजास्टर के क्या चैलेंजेस हैं खास तौर पे वहाँ पर दिखाई दे रहे हैं, जिस तरह का पूरा अर्थक्वेक के बाद की स्थिति विजुअल्स में दिखाई दे रही है, किस तरह से हम हैंडल कर रहे हैं, और जैसा कि आपने बताया कि और ऐड ऑन करने के लिए हमारे पास टीम रेडी है, तो क्या चैलेंजेस है जिसको हम ऐड ऑन और कर सकते हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ आवर NDRF टीम एंड मेडिकल इवैक्यूएशन लाइक?
We'll take these 4 and then we'll try to come back to another round. Okay.
May I begin with the challenges involved? I will leave it to my colleagues to answer that. On Syria, let me upfront suggest to you that this is not an opportune time to sort of magnify and do a deep dive into the geospatial, geostrategic issues, affecting that region. At this point of time, I think what should be uppermost in our mind is, the G20 mantra: one Earth, one family, one future. And in all of this, the present becomes a testing ground on how we as humans come together. So my request would be, let's leave that aside for another day, and let's focus on the humanitarian aspect of this crisis. Sanctions do not cover such humanitarian challenges. What we have sent, I can share with you, is 6 tons of medicines and equipment, which includes protective gear, emergency use medicines. It also consists of hydration supplements, life-saving antibiotics, protective gear, gowns, paracetamol, medical equipment like ECG machines, syringes, pumps, patient monitors, etc. It's almost 3 truckloads for the time being. The question on Indians impacted, of course, they will always be uppermost in our minds. But as I had suggested to you, that these Indians are relatively safe. How devastating the impact has been, 6,000 odd buildings collapsing like house of cards. So relatively, the Indians that we are aware of are relatively safer. It is the intended purpose and commitment of our mission in Ankara to work with the local authorities and to vacate them to safer places, and as well as at the same time get them food and water, and when the time is right, to move them out of the affected zones. Because right now in the affected area, the movement is largely focused on the most dire of circumstances and cases. Thank you.
Quickly responding to the concerns you have, one is in the first few hours. So if the Indians are safe, or anybody for that matter is safe and fine, even if they are stuck up somewhere which is not so pleasant, I would still focus my energies. We are about, I think, 60 hours into the earthquake. It's hit at 4:17 in the morning, day before yesterday. So the possibility of finding live victims is diminishing as we go deeper into time. Therefore, the concern right now is to look at those victims who can be saved. Even dead body retrieval would take a second place, but right now we are looking for live victims and getting them out as fast as we can. Hence, the Indians or anybody else for that matter, they would be taken up when we are through with the first part, that we assure ourselves, I cannot save any more lives from under the rubble, then I'll go and rescue people who are in less trouble. Second question was about sending team to Syria. We are demand driven, that the country which has been hit is actually the most well informed about what help they need, where, in what shape, what quantity. So the request came from Turkey to deploy teams. So we deployed 2 and now we have to send the third one. because the accepting country has to give us a lot of liberty of allowing foreign equipment, customs, immigration, quarantine for the canines which go, all of that has to be eased out. Yeah. So then challenges in disaster management or response in this, the weather is harsh, and the electric power is not very, petrol is scarce. Therefore, we are now learning from the earlier two teams, and we are carrying diesel generator sets along with 2,000 liters of diesel that we have loaded in the present plane through the first teams which are reaching there to find out what more can I send with the third one to make it more effective. The damage is extensive, time is of the essence, and we have barely any accommodation facilities in which rescuers can go in and stay impaired. So the rescuers also must take care of themselves to be useful. Additional teams, we are prepared with several. We have a lot of additional teams. We have 5 in the pipeline, for example, now, who are prepared to go. So as the demand comes, we would be ready to send. Additional things, for example, we have sent is the meals ready to eat, because ration is an issue. If fuel is an issue, we can't cook them on ground. Thank you.
I think Siddhant, CNN, you just mentioned about how we are sending it. Look, we are working through the government in Damascus, and that's how we are. As you heard, we sent it there. I think the other parts have been answered. Okay, next round of questions. You had something. Yes, go ahead.
सर संदीप न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया से मेरा सवाल इससे है कि सर अभी एक टीम आर्मी की मेडिकल जो फील्ड टीम है वो गई है वहाँ पे, क्या और भी टीम्स वहाँ भेजी जाएंगी, क्योंकि वहाँ पे जिस तरीके की स्थिति बनी हुई है और मेडिकेशन ज़रूरी है, तो क्या और भी टीम्स को स्टैंड बाय पे रखा?
सर मैं आपसे जानना चाहती हूँ कि 65 कंट्रीज़ की टीम्स वहाँ पर रेस्क्यू और रिलीफ टीम्स हैं वहाँ पर, तो प्रोसेस क्या होता है कोऑर्डिनेशन का, या सब अलग अलग काम करती हैं टीमें?
मैग्नीट्यूड ऑफ द डिजास्टर दैट वी आर सीइंग, are there further plans to send more relief materials or more boots on ground tomorrow and day after as well? We know that there is one flight which will take off anytime now. Is there further plans to send more relief material to both Syria and Turkey, or has the demand been stopped from those countries, the receiving countries?
I think we'll close with that question.
I just have a suggestion to make. I think boots on the ground doesn't, I think these are different kind of boots.
Take this question. Yeah, please, sir.
जो आपने प्रश्न पूछा था about medical team on standby. So the medical teams which are there, they are getting, field hospital is already getting deployed as we speak now. The relief efforts are on. And हमारी जो medical team, एक और medical team standby पे है. जैसे requirement आएगी, जैसे बता रहे थे स्थिति के ऊपर, तो उसको भेजा जाएगा. So that way we are well prepared. I think one good thing which has happened over a period of time is our preparation. And उसके बारे में हमें कोई चिंता नहीं है, because we can respond at a short notice. Thank you.
यस मैम, आपका सवाल था इंटरऑपरेबिलिटी का, कोऑर्डिनेशन का. एक यूनाइटेड नेशंस का इंसरा प्रोटोकॉल है, इंटरनेशनल सर्च एंड रेस्क्यू एडवाइजरी ग्रुप, उसकी सर्टिफिकेशन होती है. हमारी ये 2 टीम्स उसकी सर्टिफिकेशन की तैयारी में बहुत दिन से ट्रेनिंग कर रही हैं. तो सर्टिफाइड नहीं है, लेकिन वो सारे प्रोटोकॉल्स जानते हैं. तो इसलिए वहाँ पहुँचने के बाद में जिस एरिया में हम काम कर रहे हैं, स्पेनिश टीम भी उस एरिया में है, उनसे हमारा अच्छा प्रोटोकॉल के साथ इंटरऑपरेबिलिटी है और उसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं आएगी.
If I could just add, something I just add to couple of them. एक on the coordination on the ground क्या आपने कांदमन ने पूछा था. देखिए हमारे वहाँ एम्बेसी के जो टीम्स हैं, जो सर ने बताया वहाँ पे हैं, तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ तुर्की के साथ जो डिस्कशंस हो रही हैं वो इसी से कोऑर्डिनेट हो रही हैं. वो भी डिफाइन कर रहे हैं कौन से एरिया में कौन सी टीम्स की जरूरत. प्रश्न की ये न्यूज़ 8 ने किसने पूछा तभी, ये फील्ड टीम के बारे में और ज़्यादा आप भेजने चाहते हैं. देखिए आई थिंक कुछ कभी हमें लगता है नंबर जैसे ये हॉस्पिटल है, मेडिकल है, ये बहुत बड़ा एक 2 प्लेन्स में जाता है ये फील्ड हॉस्पिटल, जिसमें 100 लोग, करीब 99 लोग गए हैं इसमें करीब 25 या 20 को 40 टन उनको चाहिए मेडिकल असिस्टेंस, उसके लिए भी प्रबंध है हमारे पास. बट ये मेजर हॉस्पिटल ऐसा नहीं है, दूसरा भी हम भेज देंगे. पर जैसे उन्होंने कहा सर ने कि हमारे पास और भी बैकअप है, पर ये बहुत मेजर डिसीजन होता है और रिक्वायरमेंट के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है. तो same, Rishabh, your answers your question to the extent. Look, it is all demand driven and request driven. At this point, we have announced what are our plans. If and when we have some more information on this regard, we'll certainly share with you. Sir, you want to add anything as well? I will close it here. Yeah, related to, one second. Anything related to this? Look, I asked the last question on. Yeah, microphone. But I will allow or disallow depending on your question. Tell me.
Okay, sir, I just want to know that has Prime Minister Saab spoken to his counterpart in Turkey or Syria? Till any telephonic conversation has taken place?
Okay, sir will answer that one, yeah.
सर आपने बताया कि शैलेंद्र वांगू नेट किस स्टेट से हैं, वो कहाँ किस कंपनी में काम कर रहे थे, बैंगलोर का आपने बताया कि
प्राइवेसी की आप कोई
मैं नाम नहीं पूछ रहा हूँ।
अच्छा, थैंक यू।
आपने कहा वो एम्प्लॉय है वहाँ पे या वहाँ पे वो काम कर रहे हैं।
अच्छा, एक सेकंड, और एक और क्वेश्चन था किसका? यू हैड समथिंग अभिषेक? नो
I had this question.
Microphone. Quick.
So I had this question of like when you have sent this relief material to Syria, are these relief material going to go in one side of the city, or the rebels or the white helmet groups?
I asked. I think this question was not
Really, to add more communication lines are open with both Damascus and Ankara. The Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar is in touch with his counterpart in Turkey. All I would like to say is that the complexity of an exercise like this, in terms of the moving parts involved and how quickly they come together and are executed in an alien environment. You would imagine that when we refer to our HADR experience, whether it's the Nepal earthquake or Yemen or Ukraine, you would think that there is a standard template, aankh band karke you can do that. Every situation is unique. And while there may be a core component in terms of what we can prepare for, in terms of the training of manpower and the resources and material and equipment we have, but every challenge is unique in itself. So there will always be learning, and the fact that we all countries and with the defense forces. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues, the division who looks after Turkey, Dr. Pradeep Rajpurohit, Joint Secretary West Asia and North Africa, who covers Syria, and Satish Sivan, Joint Secretary RRC, Rapid Response Cell. I think we are one of the very few ministries on the planet which has a Rapid Response Cell, which has dealt over the years with situations like the COVID, Operation Ganga, and now Operation Dost. So this, I hope you will take this understanding and explain it to your readers and your viewers, the complexity of what is involved in these operations, and that we record my remarks here, and I thank the spokesperson for arranging this here.
Thank you very much, sir, Secretary sir, as well as our thanks to Shri Atul Karwal, DG NDRF, as well as Air Marshal B.R. Krishna, CISC, for being here. We will continue to bring you updates as our